Thank you, Mr. Chair. May I be allowed to keep my camera off so that I can have a better quality of signal?
You can, Honorable Wesley. You can proceed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. The MK Party approaches this 2025 MTPPS not as a technical document, but as a political signal of where the DA and ANC-led GNU intends to take our country over the next 4 years. And it's more of the same, maintaining the status quo of the last 30 years and decline of the past 7 years under this current administration that's led us into exponential economic decline, increased poverty, and the highest unemployment rate in the world. What we see in the MTBPS statement is not a plan for growth, not a plan for jobs, not a plan for development, but a plan for managed decline and increased dependency on Western finance institutions like the World Bank and IMF that makes us subject to their conditionalities, which work against the sovereign interest of the South African people. This is not a political statement by MKP. This is what the numbers say. The minister's MTBPS presentation failed to focus on how to solve unemployment, poverty, inequality, and does not prioritize the land reform and restitution question, or unpack how to implement or save the NDP, or even how the MTDP targets can be achieved. These are not mere ambitions. These are confessions of a government that has surrendered on the economic battlefield in the fight against poverty in favor of personal enrichment and wealth generation for the elite and white monopoly capital, and maintains capitalist oppression of our people, maintaining apartheid era and colonial ownership patterns of the economy. We are told this is a prudent and responsible budget, but responsible to who? Prudent for who? Is it prudent for the unemployed youth, 72.4% of whom are abandoned by this GNU budget and midterm budget policy statement? No, this isn't their budget. Is this a prudent and responsible budget for the 12.7 million jobless South Africans waking up today not knowing how they're going to house, clothe, educate, or feed their families, or pay for water and electricity, or whether there will ever be a job available for them in the future? Is this a responsible budget for the African, Aboriginal, and Indigenous people and colored and Indian women whose Indian and whose unemployment is now at 51.7% as Black African women? No, it's not a budget for them. This budget is responsible and accountable only to rating agencies, investors, and Western financial institutions, not to the people of South Africa. Minister, if poverty, unemployment, and state capacity are truly your stated priorities, why does the GNU continue borrowing from institutions whose conditionalities explicitly require cuts to the very services like hospitals, policing, municipal functions that protect and serve the poor? And secondly, Minister, when South Africa has 392 billion rand in GFECRA and 645 billion rand in GEPF surpluses and 140 billion rand in UIF reserves, why has the GNU chosen external conditional loans like the 15.9 billion that they just loaned from the World Bank instead of using their own domestic surpluses to fund job creation, infrastructure, and service delivery without austerity? The minister calls for structural reforms, yet Operation Vulindlela, the so-called anchor of these reforms, has no measurable targets, no performance metrics, and no evidence of any impact whatsoever. It's just a talk shop. Even the PBO has confirmed this repeatedly. This is reform by slogan, not reform by substance. We are told the growth forecast is 1.2%, but like we have consistently said at MKP, they have continually revised down year on year for the past 7 years, and yet still cling to the fantasy growth rate targets of 1.2%. Chairpersons, with respect, that number is fiction. The IMF says 1.0%, PwC is 1.0%, Nedbank says 1.1%. Treasury is alone in its optimism, but a budget built on fantasy is a budget that collapses under reality. For sub-Saharan Africa, the average growth rate is 4.1%. Why are we falling so far behind the rest of Africa year on year for decades? This MTBBS continues 7 years of austerity, the longest consolidation drive in democratic South Africa. Yet debt to GDP has not come down. Why? Because you cannot cut your way out of an unemployment crisis. We have a growth problem, not a debt problem. Meanwhile, the state sits with 392 billion rand and other money that can be used to help our people. How does the minister justify real per capita spending declines across health, education, and policing while calling this budget pro-poor? Does the minister accept that raising the fuel levy is a regressive tax that disproportionately affects the poor? And why was a wealth tax not even considered? chairpersons, the NK party rejects austerity by stealth, rejects the continued worship of foreign capital, and rejects the budget that protects privilege while suffocating the poor. South Africa needs a developmental state, not a fiscal custodian for bondholders. We need beneficiation at source, not extraction for foreign profit. We need land and industrialization, not spreadsheets and slogans. We need a budget
Honorable
that
Wesley.
puts work, wages, and dignity at the center, not rating agencies and regressive taxes.
Honorable
I have
Wesley,
a lot more
you
to
are
say.
on
I
mic.
understand I'm going over time. I apologize. I know,
If
but I want to I just want to say the fact that we are brought down to 5 minutes, it's not right, especially if we each of our parties are representing millions of voters, Mr. Chair. We need proper time, and this needs to go for the whole day, not just for a few minutes. Thank you.